It's here, courtesy of Lemon Cymbals. It's a 14-inch two-piece electric hi-hat that mounts right onto your hi-hat stand like my trusty VH-13. What's in the box? How do you set it up? Is it any good? We're gonna find out. Okay, looks like we have a bag of something. So that looks to be the bottom hat. It's mostly hard plastic. It'd be nice to have a bit of dampening material on here just to give it a better feel. This one actually feels pretty good. It feels very similar to my VH-13. Good construction on the top. Some more foam instructions, which I'm not going to use. All right, so we got our bottom hat, our top hat, and then we'll see what's in here. Straps, a link cable, more parts of the strap. Hi-hat clutch feels very heavy duty. This is a rubber spacer. It's meant to be installed onto the rod over top of the plunger if your module doesn't support pressure sensitivity. The eDRUMin does, so we're not going to use it. Those are the two straps to hold the bottom hat. And this is the clamp to attach the straps to your hi-hat stand. It's plastic, I'd prefer metal. We'll just have to be careful not to over tighten it. And then we have two more straps and another Allen key. No cables in the box. That's not an issue for me because I have my own, but definitely something to be aware of. So I guess we'll remove my beloved VH-13 and then we'll install this Lemon in its place. So the first thing to do is take off the top part. We just use our Allen key for that. And then we'll take off the nut and felt. And then this just seats in nicely on there. Put our felt on and then put the nut back on. Snug it up a little bit. And then we just put the top of the clutch back on. Set that down. I got my Lemon logo facing there. And I will tighten it like that. All right, we're ready for the stand. The clamp needs to be attached about 5 centimeters below the hats. Later, we'll feed the straps through the slots on either side of it. It's used to prevent the bottom from being sucked up when we open the hats, and also to prevent it from rotating. Just snug up the bolts a tiny bit so you can still move it around later. Line up the slots left to right relative to your playing position. Next is the bottom hat. That slot should be pointed towards the back. And now the straps. I'm using the longer ones and I'm installing them a bit differently than they recommend because I think it works better. Feed them up fuzzy side in through the slots on the clamp, through the slots on the bottom hat, down through the buckle of the strap, back up and then stick the Velcro. Now put a bit of pressure down on the clamp, nothing too crazy, and tighten it up. But be careful not to over tighten those bolts. Connect the link cable and try to position it nicely so it won't get twisted when we plug in the top hat. The Lemon logo should point towards the back. As you slip it on the rod, connect the other half of the link cable. Now we can plug in the cables from the bottom hat to the eDRUMin. The one on the left is for the hi-hat cymbal and it should plug into one of the trigger inputs on the front of the eDRUMin. And the cable on the right is for the hi-hat controller, which should plug into one of the pedal inputs on the back of the eDRUMin. And that's it, we're all set. The next thing we need to do is set the height of the top hat. For any plunger style controller, I like to set it so that when my foot is completely off the pedal, the plunger's at the top of its travel and there's no gap between it and the top hat. For many reasons, but mostly because I can't stand the sound of the top hat ramming into the plunger. It makes it sound so cheap. So I just slowly lower the hats until that clanking sound goes away. All right, and now we'll finish setting things up in the eDRUMin control application. Now, in case you're not familiar with eDRUMin devices, they produce MIDI and not audio, so we're loading up Superior Drummer so we can hear what we're doing. I've already reset both inputs, but we'll start with the hi-hat cymbal. So we need to set the pad function to hi-hat cymbal and the pad type to dual zone cymbal. Now I'm going to quickly do some basic setup, but I won't go over all the details. That's pretty good. Turn down the thresh a tiny bit. Let's check that out. So that's pretty good. I think we're ready to move on to the pedal. First thing we want to do is calibrate its voltage range. So we just press on the pedal to take it through its range of motion. Now, one thing you want to make sure of is that the right side of the calibration range lines up with that red indicator. It seems to be good in my case, but I'll show you what happens if you're wrong with it. You see how the travel control keeps scrolling? That tells you that something's off. When it's properly lined up and you take your foot off, the travel control stops. The other side of the calibration range controls how much pressure sensitivity you get. If I stretch it out, now I have to push super hard on the pedal to get it all the way closed. And I don't want to press that hard, so I'm going to adjust it a bit. Let's try that. Next, we'll do the travel control. What you want to do is get it so your hi-hats are just touching like they are there, and then line it up with that line on the travel control. Looks like we need a little bit more gain for our pedal notes. So that's good. I can turn off the calibrate. I think we're all done. Let's give it a whirl. Nice even dynamics. Edge is pretty good. It's a little bit unsensitive at the lower velocities. I think my VH-13 performed a little better there, but actually overall the dynamics are really good. Let's try playing something. Excuse my bad performance. I don't have a lot of room, so I need to make a choice. But it's so hard. They're both great hi-hats. I like the size of the Lemon. And there's this fluid dynamics air resistance thing that happens when you step on a hi-hat pedal. And Lemon has that nailed. The VH-13 has better edge switch sensitivity. It's not bad on the Lemon, but it's definitely better here. And I feel like the VH-13 responds to subtle changes in your foot pressure just a tiny bit better. And then there's Lemon's plastic clamp. Definitely room for improvement there. But I think I need to think about it some more. And if you're in the market for a new hi-hat, think about this. A used VH-13 will run you 400 euros. You can pick up a brand new 14-inch Lemon for 239 euros. Now, I'm not going to say that the Lemon is the better choice, even though it might be. But I can confidently say that the VH-13 does not perform 160 euros better than the Lemon. And if you're American, those are pre-tariff euros. So what am I going to do? You know, I paid for this VH-13 with my own money. I didn't pay for the Lemon. So in a way, the Roland has more value to me. And if I gave it up, I'd be losing that value. So it's a very tough decision. I'm going to need to think about it some more. And I'll get back to you about it in the next one. Bye-bye.